All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to MSP Unplugged, episode 44, Aim, IT, and Adjust. I am your host, Paco Lebron. This is our live show where we discuss different ways to run your IT business, whether it's managed services, consulting, break fix, or anything in between. Jeff hopefully will be with us here in a couple of minutes. He's experiencing some technical issues. So hopefully he'll be able to join in on the conversation. But before we go into disclosing and kind of introducing our co-host here, wanted to give a quick call to action for my favorite event coming up next year, 2021, TechCon Unplugged. We will be in the beautiful Aloft Hotel in Rosemont, Illinois, September 17th to the 19th. What are you going to do there when you get there? You're going to learn from amazing panels to help maintain and improve your business, meet vendors to find products and services that can save you time and money. And as we all have been, how do I want to say this, have been extremely looking forward to rubbing elbows with your peers in the community and getting in the same room with everyone. I know that this year has been taking a toll for quite a bit, and I think a lot of us are on that Zoom fatigue and virtual conferences. So fingers crossed we will be able to go ahead and meet out there and have a great time. As I've mentioned before, we were able to work with the hotel to get not only a really great room rate at $124 a night, but free parking. And being that in Chicago, that is a very hard thing to come by, we were able to really get some good feedback from a lot of the community and make sure that we are able to essentially move forward and really make sure that we give back and make it as convenient as possible to come to the event. And that's the real reason why we started to do it. Go ahead over to techconunplugged.com. Get your tickets before they sell out for only $199. All right, let's go ahead and introduce our co-host. We have Kevin Ranke. Kevin, did I pronounce your last name right, or did I butcher it?
Nope, you got it.
All right, perfect. Kevin Ranke over at IT Reboot. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Great, Paco. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well. Usually in the beginning, we usually have a tips or a story to kind of just go through on just something that the audience can learn from, can be inspired from. Do you have anything for us this week?
Yeah, I do. So a little bit of advice, I guess I would say, is communication and transparency. So I am a small one-man shop here in West Michigan, and with that, I run my IT business part-time outside of my full-time IT job. So really important for me is letting my clients know that I do this part-time, but I'm going to be there for you. So usually it's nights and weekends, so that they're not expecting, 2 in the afternoon, I can run over and take care of an issue. And that's just being upfront with them, so we both have the same expectations of how the service is going to be and what they can expect from me. And on the same token, when I'm working sometimes nights and weekends, they may not always be there if they let me in the building. And so it's having that strong communication about, what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, so you're not setting off alarms or they change the code on you and you get the cops coming at you. I've had that happen. Luckily, I called the owner in time and they told me the new code, but it's just having the open communication, transparency so everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is such a big piece about it, and I was very similar in your shoes back from 2013 to about end of 2016, where I was running the business part-time and I had a great full-time job, and luckily I was able to strategically get an office that was about 15 minutes away. That was a virtual office that served as our address, and people could meet the front desk there and so forth and so on. But having that communication is key. Being able to understand, every aspect of your business. One thing, for example, we used to have an answering, or we still do. We have an answering service that would answer on our behalf for taking client intake requests. And then, sometimes clients would ask, hey, is this an answering service, because of the robotic way that it sounded? And we inform the answering service, if asked, ensure that you do tell them you're an answering service, because the last thing we want to do is really, one, provide a concern for the client and us trying to do our support. And then two, really just want to make sure that you're transparent, because that way they have not only a better feeling for you to service them, but also that they understand where you're coming from as well. And then again, being open with your schedule, and as you take on clients, understand that, hey, here are the time frames and here's what we have available to you. Now, you could be creative as you discuss this. You could say, hey, look, we provide the best support after hours to not impede anyone's work. We can do on the weekends because it allows us to get around where we need to go much freely. things like that. And as you mentioned, this is where that trust allows you to get, the keys, lock codes, things of that nature to help provide the best service. So I definitely would agree communication is key, which actually kind of leads into my story that I had from this week as well. So we actually just yesterday, we actually went to a manufacturing facility that we had to do a Windows 7 upgrade. This was a back and forth of where they are part of a bigger corporation. And what ended up happening was when we took over, and this was part of an acquisition that we did from another MSP company that was closing. And, we noticed that all the systems were Windows 7, they had a 2008 server, all the bad stuff that probably we need to get knocked out as soon as possible. So after 3 visits from going there, because either once we identified the issue, we let the corporate office know, they sent us kind of not what we asked for, but what we really did ask for. So if, for example, we let them know that we wanted to go ahead and replace these machines with a Windows 10 systems, 256 SSDs, 8 gigs of RAM, Core i5 at a minimum. Well, apparently all they got from that message was, we need Windows 10 systems to go into the place. So what did they do? They upgraded Gen 2 and Gen 3 PCs that they had laying around with Windows 7, upgraded into Windows 10 and shipped them back to us. So when we got there, we saw that they literally had older computers than what was at the actual facility, because they had Gen 4s and Gen 5s. But what was even more funnier is the office manager there went ahead and told us, or the purchasing manager told us, she's like, yeah, that's pretty funny, because look at this closet over here. And as we opened the closet, it was the same computers that were replaced with the ones that they currently had at that point. So that was just a running joke that we had that was really funny. We actually went ahead and had to move forward with going back to the corporation, explain to them in more detail, and then we went ahead and got the right PCs that we had yesterday. But of course, you try to prepare for the worst and do the best, and there's always those gotchas that happen. And so we were working through them. We had to get some web apps going, and we just couldn't get it. And trying to have a dialogue with another director of IT that's somewhere else proves to be difficult via email. So I have a hard rule that if after 3 emails, it's a phone call. But it just didn't seem to work out that way, because I could not get him on the phone. So long story short, we were able to get the issue resolved, things like that. But because of all these communications, we received an email this morning from the general manager at the location. And he basically said that, he's just so impressed at what we did, just for the fact of this was one of the most painless migrations that he's had in over 25 years that he's worked with IT and in the industry and at that facility. And he was really assuming that he was just going to be knocked out and he was just going to be totally done for a couple of days, and we were going to try and pick the pieces up. So to hear that was really great, where I felt that things could have gone smoother, but in their eyes, apparently we rocked it out of the park. So that was a great feeling. Communication, that's going to be a great opportunity for you to really just understand the transparency of things, and then it'll work out in the end. So can't agree more to that. All right, so Jeff still hasn't come on, so we'll go ahead and move on to our main topic. Kevin, before we get into our main topic, which is AIM, IT, and Adjust, why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit more about your origin story, kind of how you got into the industry and how you started the business?
Yeah, so I've been in IT probably about, say, 10 years now. I went to a university here in Michigan and majored in computer information systems, which is in the College of Business. And from there, it was really, I guess what sparked it was growing up. I was always hands-on fixing cars and just tinkering with things. And computers was kind of that other next outlet, aside from being a mechanic, which was probably one of my other options that would have been really interesting. Computers just kind of appealed to me. I mean, kind of grew up with them in some regard, and that's where everything kind of took off. And so I went through college. I started getting a job at the university doing basic first level IT support, and then moved on to different jobs. And I've worked in small mom and pop shops all the way up to large corporations, and even just left a pretty large Michigan MSP about a year ago, and now I have a full-time salary job at a local municipality. And then a friend actually that I was working with at the large corporation about 2 years ago used to run a small IT business on the side. And when he, started a family, got married, he called me and was like, "Hey, do you want to take over this work for me? I've been working with you professionally for like a year and a half, and I really like what you do, and I think you got a good head on your shoulders. I think you could take this over and make the client happy." At the time, I was like, "No, I don't want to do that. It's like a half-hour drive. It's not really my cup of tea." And then I fast forward about 9 months, I had left that full-time job, and then another friend of mine was going to help one of his, family friends just set up a new office, and it's like, "Oh, come help me with the IT, and we're gonna come hang out for a day. We're gonna set up a server. We're gonna do this and that and the other thing." And then it really sparked like, "Wow, this is pretty cool. Like we're here doing all the fun IT stuff, but we're doing it for ourselves. So more of that money comes to our pocket. We have a little more control. It's on our terms. It's kind of a fun way to start off and do it for yourself." So now we're about a year into IT Reboot, just doing it myself, one man shop, and I went back to that friend from the full-time salary manufacturing job, and I was like, does your friend still need help? Because now I'm interested, after I went with my other friend there for that day, and now he's my biggest break fix recurring client. I don't have any MSP clients. That's one of my goals we'll get into later, but that's kind of where it all started. I took a chance on a fun day, and now we're working towards being full-time for myself here soon.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, no, that's a great story. I think that, having friends in different avenues and then how it just kind of just works together, getting into that piece. I think that's kind of essentially how we started out as well. We were helping out a buddy of ours who's a good friend of mine, known him for over 25 years. And, he had his own IT business. He had a graphic design shop, and, he showed me a lot in the beginning stages of just me not even knowing that I wanted to be a business owner. I had no aspirations to do it. And then it just came to a point where we just saw things a little bit differently and ended up just deciding, you know what, let me go ahead and do something on my own and just see where it goes. And, 8 years later, it just seemed to have evolved in something to completely what I would have never could imagine that this would be. If you'd asked me back then, how would I see ProdigyTeks kind of going? So very awesome in your first year to see that, and the continued growth as we kind of plan for 2021. But before we go in there, we would like to make sure we acknowledge our great and fellow co-host Jeff Halash. We haven't seen him in a couple of weeks, so I want to make sure that he has his time and carry the show.
Hi, Paco. I thank you for starting. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So we had a couple of technical difficulties. Not sure what. The browser just said, "Hey, I don't want to work, and I'm not going to work for you today." I tried two different browsers, Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge, and the same thing happened. So I think it's one of those weird issues, and maybe this is something, a teaching time where we can look at different things that maybe we've forgotten from the past. And so when you hook up things like mixers and audio interfaces and things like that, and you have all these different inputs and outputs coming from your computer, always default and make sure that you're pointing to the right things inside of Microsoft or inside of Windows. Because when you do that, usually everything else will fall in line and work. And apparently I had the wrong mic input on Windows. And so the browser said, "Hey, I can't see your stuff," because I would go to change it inside. So every time I would mess with the settings, it messed it up. Once I was able to restart my computer and actually point them to the right things, then everything worked just fine. So that's where we're at today. So where have we started?
So we're right up to, Kevin was able to give us his great origin story, how he got into the business, and we're ready to dive right into the main topic.
Awesome. Kevin, hey, good to meet you virtually. And this will be exciting to talk about these things. Paco, you're doing such a great job. Just carry on.
All right. So, so we're going to dive right into the main topic, aim, IT, and adjust. And really the reason why we came up with this title is, I am a big proponent same as Jeff, on this is the time when you want to elaborate, you want to take reflection, see what happened in the past year, and start to strategically plan for 2021 or the year that comes. Obviously, we can't predict everything. I think 2020 has really shown us that whatever we decided and tried to strategize for, no one could have thought the year would have happened the way that it did. But again, I think for a lot of us that had some type of framework, and that depends on different things, whether it's a strategy, whether it's a playbook, whether it's even a vision board for those that believe in that and trying to put some of those things in perspective. I know that when I comparing this whole year, I have a vision board and a digital one and looked at it, and I actually hit, I think it was like nine cells, and I think I hit 8 out of the 9 that I was trying to do for the year. So, it ended up becoming something that I did decide to strategize for. I think 2021 has really taught us some new things to kind of move forward with. So I'm just curious, I'll kick it over to you, Kevin, on, what have been some things that, have really helped you throughout the year, whether that is beneficial business-wise, resource-wise, or just knowledge-wise, that is helping you think about what's going to happen in the new year?
Yeah, so with that, one thing we did this year, we really got on board with our website. So I was previously, kind of trying to do my own thing, WordPress-wise and all that good stuff, or even the GoDaddy ones. And that was cool. That was annoying. So we got on board with Tech Site Builder, and that's been great. Our site's rock solid, and we love that. And along with that, just tying in the social media. So I try to make it a point to post on social media at least a couple times a week and get in those, local buy-sell groups or, local informed groups. And I've got a handful of, leads and jobs and even recurring clients, break-fix clients, out of just being on Facebook. It's, someone mentions me, or I put a post out there and someone sees it, or I comment on a post and they help, and I'm able to pick it up. Or now my website's getting up there, and we have Google My Business set up. All those foundation things, I guess you would say, have really helped out. I mean, there's a little legwork to do in the beginning, but once you get them set up and maintain them, they're pretty much good to go. You keep up on them, do updates and whatnot with posts and your hours and what have you. And we have, we only have 3 or 4 Google reviews, but they're all 5 stars. So our average is pretty high right now. So that's a good start.
Cool.
Yeah. So I guess that would be one of the main things. We've also noticed that if it's something that I want to do, full time, which, that's kind of the goal, we're really going to have to convert at least a couple of our break-fix clients here pretty soon to an MSP, or at least like a block time model, buying time in quantities. It's nice to be, someone's IT guy, but on their terms, right? That's not super helpful when, they could go in spurts and not needing any work for a couple months, and then all of a sudden they just slam you with a project, and it's not very steady, and it's hard to rely on that, especially with a family. So we're really looking next year. I think we have a good foundation, and we want to try to convert at least one client to an MSP model next year.
Very cool. Very cool. I think, it's so there's a lot in there that you mentioned, right? I think the fact of establishing your online presence and giving it a fresh look helps bring that Google juice to your site and domain and things of that nature. I have noticed that, when I make certain changes, or I'll reply to some old reviews that I didn't get a chance to, or creating an active campaign of, I'm going to go find some more reviews for my clients to review us for, I've noticed an uptick on some of those things. So that's great to hear that you've partnered with Tech Site Builder, Matt Rodella and Rami Bell, great friends of ours here. And, for all disclosure, I enrolled in all their whole kit and caboodle. So because I just couldn't maintain the review campaigns on my own, just because I was just so busy. So they've kind of automated that for me, and it's been working out really well. And we got some other strategies that we're trying to do as well, right? But I think the biggest piece, like you mentioned, is how to get more predictable revenue coming in, right? Because I think that, we all run into the same problem. Either we don't have enough time, or we don't have enough predictable time. We don't have enough predictable revenue. So what I mean by that is sometimes, we're going to get money coming in. We just don't know when it's going to come. And sometimes our bills don't agree with when the money comes in. Right. And obviously cash flow being an issue. So having those models of prepaid blocks and things like that, and having a PSA or a CRM system that keeps track of that is going to be a big piece of that. And then two, I think that's kind of how we started, right? We were a computer repair shop, break fix, supporting some small businesses. And then we started doing the hour thing and prepaid blocks. And we kind of grown more and more into our comfortability level, because I feel that a customer will know your comfortability level when it comes to trying to sell some of these services. And if you don't believe it yourself, it's going to be hard to sell to the customer and your end client. So I think for us, we just had to grow as we needed. So started off with 4-hour blocks with residential, started off with 4-hour blocks at a more bigger rate with businesses. Then we went to 10-hour blocks. Then we started with renewals of those blocks after they've hit 25% of their block, adding a quote unquote cybersecurity package, which is the managed AV, the patching, and all the other tools that we have on a monthly basis, so that we had some type of monthly recurring revenue. And I learned that over with Matt. And then going full managed services and showing the value to them of why it makes sense. So I think these are all great strategies, especially going from just trying to get that predictable revenue. But I'll toss it over to Jeff on kind of his thoughts on just how to, work on being more efficient with the business and trying to aim for now and to the future.
Well, you've brought up some great points, and I think there's some things that people need to look at. I think a lot of times people will chase in this business. They will either chase the money or chase the time, and neither one of those tends to be in abundance for most of us. And that's not a bad thing. It's just understanding when you're moving forward in your business, some of the things that you want to do. In other words, you have to look at your business in a way that I think there are a lot of things that they like to do. And then there's some things in their business that they don't like to do. And I'm not advocating that you can only do the things that you like to do, but I think there are a lot of things in your business that you'll tend to do that you don't really like that aspect of it. So you solve those problems by, i.e. hiring somebody and, diversifying yourself that way. But that brings in a whole nother thing where now you've got to manage somebody, right? And so you've got to weigh the pros and cons of everything that you do. And I think when we're talking about goals for the next year and what to do, you need to put some of these things on paper, on a board, somewhere where you can, obviously, if you have nothing to aim at, you're just going to go, whatever fire pops up today, you're going to take care of that fire and move forward. So if you have something to aim at and you're going to know yourself better than anybody else knows you, except maybe your spouse probably knows you better than you know yourself. But you need to look at the things that, okay, what do I want my business to look like in 2021, 2025, 2030? And these are some of the questions you need to ask yourself. If you're not asking yourself these questions, you're just going to go day to day, week to week, year to year. And the next thing you know, you're going to turn around and you're going to be in this business for 20 years and go, why am I not further ahead? Well, because you probably needed to aim at something, and you probably needed to understand yourself and be able to understand what it is you want out of your business and what's going to provide revenue for your family and stuff like that. One of the questions I do want to throw out, though, that because with all the stuff that's happened this year, I want to ask you guys, what do you think about, everybody has always talked about, we're getting out of residential. And I laugh because I think there's going to be a lot of MSPs who are going back to residential. And the reason I say that is not because they want to. Obviously, that's not something that somebody wants to maintain for the long term. But we're going to have to adjust and figure out the model that's going to work for that, because there are going to be a percentage, not all, but there are going to be a higher percentage of people that are going to work from home, because I think a lot of these companies are starting to figure out, they're like, wait a minute, the job's still getting done and we don't need this building over here. So we're going to get rid of that. But there's a lot of things that entails as far as, security, all these different things, people using the same network with their families, et cetera, et cetera. So where do you guys see this next year going and changing when it comes to kind of moving a lot of the business stuff back to the residential side?
You want to take it, Kevin, or I can go?
Yeah, I got some thoughts. So that's a really good point, and I guess we're kind of in a good spot to be with that because we do a handful of residential. I'm actually going to a new residential client this afternoon. A guy just bought a vacation home, a retirement home over here on the lake, and he needs everything. He doesn't know anything about IT. He's just, a 60-some-year-old man that's retiring and wants to be comfortable and wants someone to take care of it for him. So that's gonna be me. But with people still in the industry and still working, a lot of people are working from home, and maybe they're, maybe they don't have corporate IT, or maybe their MSP hasn't done residential in a while. It's going to be a very important thing for them to focus on. I know when I worked at a MSP here in Michigan about a year ago, it was kind of a sticky situation where we would support the business, but then the executive would want, this person has to work from home, or I'm going to work from home, and it kind of a slippery slope of, well, now that you're here in my house, well, here's an issue. So it's good to have those boundaries of what is considered business support to get you connected to the business network and keep you functioning for business purposes. But I think we're in a great spot just coming up. That's going to be a thing we just continue on doing, and then kind of grow from there into the standalone traditional business support. But it's a great thing we're going to have to watch out for and adapt for a lot of companies, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's funny because Rich Freeman over at Channel Pro actually asked the same question to me when I was on the show. And I think, and the first question was, I can even talk. What is the residential experience that I had before servicing residential clients? Give me a better, or a heads up, or a better advantage of supporting clients that are in the business environment that have gone home, right? And I think there is some truth to that, where you kind of understand how the home is laid out, what's going on in typical scenarios. But I also believe that you have a different mindset when it comes to the business support as well. So to answer your question, Jeff, a lot of our clients are going to be going remote only. We have a lot of them that are foregoing their leases that are going to be coming up here in January, March. So we're going to see a lot of that happening. But what's currently keeping me up at night is, how do I protect them on a standardized level, right? So we can troubleshoot, we can try this, we can do what we can, right? But what we've had to resort to, at least for now, for the interim, is enabling different modules on some of the tools that we have. So right now, I'm currently using Bitdefender as our managed AV for all our clients. I shouldn't say all our clients, because our Mac clients have a different AV, and that's a whole nother story. But with the Bitdefender AV, we had to have enabled a lot of the other modules that they have available, such as network protection, network status, and also having the EDR stuff going on to just log, and really just understanding like the quote unquote software firewall to assist them, because we don't have our standard firewalls that we have for all the businesses anymore. And then there are those that will do VPN and things like that. But what ended up happening from this whole piece is it then allowed us to transition and change the conversation, where now we're no longer having to worry about endpoints. We really have to worry about now the cloud services. So everyone is going into getting all their stuff off their on-premise servers to OneDrive or Google Drive. Everyone else is trying to get away from on-premise information, things like that. How can they gain their applications? How can they go to the cloud? And, there's a lot of that migration that's happening, but now we're having to figure out, okay, how do we protect them there as well? So, we do have our standard processes of 2FAs and user stuff and things of that nature, but this is where leveraging of another vendor would probably help, which in our case, we're using Rocket Cyber. Because they have a great way of feeding all of this cloud stuff, and I can kind of take a look and see what's happening on a logging basis. Because everyone always puckers up when we hear an MSP got breached, when MSP has been sued. But when it really comes down to it, it's not so much that it happened, It's more of, did we do everything that we commercially, with a commercial effort, reasonably effort to do what we said we did in the contract and our marketing and all the information that we have? Did we do what we said? And that's where we're all kind of getting tripped up, because we're following these templates. We're going through what best practices, but we're not understanding what our own limitations are. So, perfect example, a lot of people do a lot of quarterly business reviews. Although I would love to do a quarterly business review, I don't have the bandwidth with my small team, even with employees, as we're trying to flush everything out. I can do an annual review, and that's what I change into my information. But there's a lot of templates and a lot of agreements out there that say quarterly business reviews, and people leave them in there, right? Or there are other items that they don't do and they leave them in there, right? So these are things that you want to kind of take a look at. And as you transition, especially into this new remote world that we're going to have, we are seeing a lot of this happen. And there are those of us that have seen this already in the past, and we're kind of prepping for this, trying to keep our clients more and more protected with the bring your own devices, being remote, and things of that nature. So I think having that residential piece in there definitely will help you out in the long run, just so you kind of get in the environment of it. Will those managed service providers that only concentrated on small business be disadvantaged? I don't think by much. They're just essentially moving their location. I think Kyle over at Pro Tech Guy kind of said it the best, was trying to find his comment, is, he would still consider it business support. It's just a different office location, really, is really where it comes out to. So I think that this is the ability of understanding where you are with your business, where you want to go, and then just understanding where those trends are going. And if you can understand and kind of see and make that bet on where it's going, it may pay off in the end.
I think one of the things that everybody needs to look at or think about when you're talking about doing remote, obviously, if you VPN, you can VPN into a network at an office somewhere. But if those offices go away, that ability goes away. Now, I'm going to say that I have been using business class equipment on my own personal network in this household for my businesses and personal for years. And the problem comes down to the cost. So if you think about it from a standpoint, back in the day, a lot of people used to run their own modems, because they're like, I'm not using the ISP's modem. And if you're using a regular service like Comcast non-business, you can still do that. If you use Comcast business, which maybe some of these people will have to upgrade to in their homes in order to work properly from there and do all that, you can still set up equipment with that router and modem, because people do it all the time. That's how it's done in businesses. It's not a big deal. So there's not a whole lot that changes there. What changes really comes down to a cost of hardware per household. And how do you differentiate between, I only need one router in a building versus I have 10 employees now that are scattered. Now I need 10 routers. And so I think a lot of things, we're looking at things like cloud services are coming to light now. And I think we're kind of more pushing that direction. Yes, we've been using cloud services ever since the internet started. It's always been the way it is. It hasn't changed. It's just advanced. And so now we've got the ability to do some things that we could only do hardware wise, or it only made sense to do hardware wise. Now we can do some of those things online or in the cloud. And that's going to help mitigate some of these things, because there is going to be a cost. And as companies are looking at the bottom line, how are they going to look at the cost when it's spread out across, at the end of the day, it's our job to present the better options. And Kevin, something you said earlier, you basically had said that, it's getting people changed over from a break fix standpoint to a managed service standpoint. And here's what I always say to that. There's a really easy way to mitigate that problem. You just charge an exorbitantly a lot of money when you do break fix. And therefore you go, hey, listen, you can make a presentation after doing this for a few months, and you go, listen, here's how I can save you money. And you present to them a managed proposal that's going to pay you on a regular basis all the time, month to month, however you want to do it. And so when you do that, if you can show them the cost savings, here's what you're paying right now, because here's what you're using me for. But the problem comes in where a lot of people don't charge enough. And if you don't do that, you can never make that differentiation, right? We've all started there. We've all done it. Yeah, it's normal. It's human nature. We love to help people. That's why most of us are in this business. So there's not a whole lot I can say against that, because it is what it is. But these are things to think about as we're moving forward into 2021, and figure out what you want to do and how you want to adjust your business and how you want to make it. Hey, a lot of people will say, I'll give you an example as far as like things like traveling to a customer. I hate doing that. I hate getting in there, but here's the thing. If I travel to a customer, my clock starts when I get in my car. It doesn't end till I pull back in my driveway and get out of my car. That's my window. So I don't, if it takes me an hour to drive there, I don't care. I'm getting paid. If it takes me an hour on site, well, okay, there's 3 hours, hour there, hour back, whatever. And so as long as you set those things up for yourself, and I wouldn't advocate that, because I think that doing local business is a lot better and a lot easier. And if I can get anywhere to any of my customers within a 15-minute window, I'm doing pretty good. Anything outside of that, there's just a lot of things that you have to think about and build in there. So these are just some of the things that I think about on a regular basis, and some adjustments that people have to make as they progress in the business.
Well, one thing, and we'll touch one thing on the residential piece, and then we'll kind of move forward, is you made a great point of, as everyone is going home may not be local to you, because there are a lot of places that are, they're traveling back home, and, just all these things. So I've had that actually happen twice, where I had a client that was out in, I believe, Denver or California, one of the two, where their computer just fried, had nothing, couldn't get anywhere from it. Luckily, it was under warranty. We got them over there. They took care of it, things like that. But then there are times where we couldn't get a warranty. So in perfect example of this week, we had a client in Boston. She's president here for a vacations company. She went home because of the pandemic. So she's working remote, which everyone is, right? You can get your job done. You can do whatever. But her computer completely went out and it wouldn't turn back on. So we had Dell warranty come out and go ahead and get that resolved. But then they didn't wipe her system, so they didn't reset the BitLocker key. Now, since this is a co-managed client of mine, we only provide labor and support. There wasn't much we could do. So we said, hey, you can have it shipped to us. We can figure it out. But she's traveling Friday now. So now we're in this tight window. So what did we do? We put out a call to our MSP Unplugged network. Kyle from ProdigyTeks guy happens to be 25, 30 minutes away from Boston. So he was able to help me out, coordinate that service, and she's as happy as a clam now. They got it over. The client, the client here, it was purchased from a company in the UK and all this other mess. Long story short to say is that, when it comes to everyone coming home, you do want to go ahead and expand your network as well. And you may need that community to help you out. Like I was lucky enough to have the guys here, and Kyle was able to take care of me, but I'm sure that there's everyone else here that we can help, poke around as well. So that's something to think about, is where are your clients now? And do you have a plan to help support them if they got to go somewhere when a hardware failure comes? And you don't just want anybody to kind of take a look at that PC. You want someone that you can trust to kind of go from there. So I know we got about 10 minutes because I know Kevin's got a hard stop at about 1 o'clock or so, but just wanted to do a quick call to action really quick. And for those that love the show and love everything that we do, if you would like to support us, you can go on to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. Here, you'll be able to contribute to the show. It's about $1 a show. And what we do is we basically have this payment so that we can provide a lot of cool features to you guys. One of those being our private Facebook group. And everyone has a Facebook group now. Why are you paying for one, right? Essentially, quote unquote. Well, you're not. Basically, what you're doing is you're contributing to the show for a lot of the great value. We do a lot of this to try and help provide great vendors, great tools, and just great content so that you all can learn from as best as possible. And the private Facebook group allows us to kind of just talk to everyone that's interested and kind of keep this community going. And what's great about the Facebook group is we my personal experience with other Facebook groups, we always see that there's a lot of techs and IT business owners that tend to speak opinions as facts, and it causes a lot of rift, and it makes people feel like they can't ask specific questions that make them feel dumb. They've been called, make them feel that they just are not wanted. And that's something we just never liked. And that's why personally myself, I'm only in so many Facebook groups, because I see that and I don't see the moderators doing anything about it. And it just really turns me off on that type of stuff. So we established this one. It's been about 2 years now, going strong. We have close to about 160 members, and everyone talks as if we're all family, we're all friends. There's no judgment. There's no inputs making you feel dumb or anything like that. And that's really what we try to set, is that environment that you can be open for. Because if we see somebody trying to be a bully, or they're trying to not contribute to the great cause, they're out of there. We have a zero tolerance for that. And everyone's been pretty good about that, because they understand. But also, we got some cool things coming as well. Not only do we have the conference, obviously, which is a whole different thing, but we have a community that me and Jeff are building out, which will be another platform, which hopefully will be a lot of great features that we just couldn't get in the Facebook group. But it will allow us to get some more collaborative efforts as well. So more to come for that in the new year. But again, we appreciate those that continuously support us. But if you do feel you want to go ahead and support us, go over to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged.
I was going to say, I want to thank one of our newest Patreon supporters, Dale Crowder, just supported us this week. So I appreciate that. And we do have a Zen Master in the chat room says, if I contribute for Jeff to buy a Star Trek poster, will he agree? No, I will not. I don't mind Star Trek. I'm more of a Star Wars fanboy, and I don't really have any Star Trek toys. I actually have a little, there you go. Prosper. I actually have a little Lego that one of my kids, and I can't remember which one, made me years and years ago. And it was just out of simple Lego pieces, but it's the Enterprise. And I've got it's sitting up in a shelf right over here. So I do have some of that stuff, but yeah, just not a whole lot. I want to, before we go on, Paco, and I don't mean to jump in, but Kevin, because you have a hard stop, I want you to, any other goals or things you're thinking about for 2021, I want you to go ahead and talk about those right now, as far as your thought process and where you're going from here.
Yeah, thanks. So first goal, obviously, convert at least one break-fix client to MSP. We spoke about that. Next one is reduce unnecessary expenses. So after the first TechCon Unplugged, I was all gung-ho, wanted to buy all the fun tools and thought it would make all the difference in the world, and sign up for Synchro. And luckily, I paid up front for all of it. Luckily, they were nice enough to prorate the refund when I found out it was a little more than I needed. So, and I'm always, thinking, oh, it'd be cool if I had this tool, maybe not just a hardware tool to actually do a job I need, but, oh, what if I, did all of the, the tech site, tech blog builder, the whole tech marketing engine. What if I did all that? Well, is that right for me now? I want t-shirts and mouse pads and all this stuff. I guess it's really grounding myself on not letting the horse or the carriage get in front of the horse, if you will. That's one goal I need to kind of just simmer down on a little bit and not go buck wild. The next one the last one is increase productivity. So I fairly productive. I guess there are no boundaries when it comes to being, a self-employed part-time business owner. It can be, 10 o'clock at night, and I'll be, cranking away on some Facebook post or replying to an email, which is great customer service, but you really got to set those boundaries to have the family time, because if you lose that, then you're not really going to have much else left. So that's something that's going to be really important for me this coming year, is making those boundaries and sticking to them, because I can be known for just working all night long on a project and let things get away from me. So I guess those are my top 3 goals.
And I think that comes down to, as far as that goes, is scheduling everything, so that you schedule. And nobody wants to do this because it's hard, and everybody wants to be Johnny on the spot or Sally on the spot or whatever. But the reality is, if you don't set boundaries for yourself, you will burn out in this business. We've said it time and time again. A lot of people, lots and lots of people start off in this business, And it's not that they are not capable to continue on in this business. They just are doing so many things that are just sucking the life out of them that they burn out and they're done. When I started this podcast, or when I started a podcast, or came in and took over a podcast back in 2014, I basically had contacted 300 business owners, and 75% of those were out of business. And that was maybe 4 years later, 4 years later, something like that, from the time when they were first interviewed. And so you've got to watch that stuff. And I'm going to say this. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm guilty of it. And technology sucks the life out of you. And I'm going to say this. Technology, I believe now, is from Satan. And the reason I say that is because technology was supposed to make everything easier, faster, quicker, and it doesn't. It just sucks your time that much more. So what I'm going to tell you is, take all your social media things off your phone. I have 3, I maintain 7 email addresses. I maintain 3 on my phone that I may need to use when I'm out and about, or whatever. All my alerts for everything on my phone, I have no alerts. You send me an email, I don't care. I'll get to it when I have time and I'm sitting down and I choose to open that email app. I will do that. The other thing is, schedule everything. I mean it. Schedule your sleep. Schedule when you're going to check emails. Schedule when you're going to do your bills. Schedule when you're going to do your accounting. Schedule when you're going to do your marketing. Schedule everything. If you schedule everything, there's no guesswork in what you're doing. And you can always make adjustments. Like if something pops up and you got to move something, you can move it or delete it and be that much better off, because a lot of times the things that we delete that we think that are important, 99.9% of the time, they're not. We'll get to them eventually. You can get to them the next week. You can get to them the next week. Think about it like this. If you spent, let's say, I don't know, we're going to simple numbers, because I'm a simple guy, an hour a week doing one thing, whatever it was, an hour a week doing marketing. You realize that's 52 hours a year that you just spent doing marketing. You know how many people spend 52 hours a year doing marketing, especially when you're a one-person show? Zippo. Nobody does that. Nobody does, because we don't have time, or we don't think about it, or it's the last thing that's on our list that's in our head. And that's why we're so scatterbrained and all over the place, because we can't think about what needs to be done. Well, take all that stuff out of your brain, throw it onto something. And I'm not a big to-do list person. I have a to-do list, but they're the to-do lists that one day will be done. In other words, at some point, whether it's on a weekly basis or a daily basis, I'm going to assign something on my to-do list to get done if it becomes up and it's that important. Everything else is scheduled on my calendar.
Yep. No, I think those are all really great points. Kevin, I just wanted to lob it back over to you before you head out. Any closing thoughts that you may have? Any pieces of just drive home on kind of what we're trying to do for 2021 and how to better yourself as a business, especially wherever stage you are?
No, I don't have a lot. I think that's a great idea, Jeff, to schedule everything. I guess I haven't thought about that. I usually just have a bucket full of reminders in my phone, and they all just keep turning red and piling up. So I think scheduling, that's a great idea. No, we're just looking forward to a big 2021 and just continue on this fun journey. So it's been great so far. I'm happy to be here, and yeah, it's going to be good.
No, we appreciate you coming out. And just to be respectful of your time, we'll just lob it over to you, and then me and Jeff can decide if we keep on going. But Kevin, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, just pick your brain, kind of understand how you're kind of running your business part-time.
So I'm in the Facebook group. You'll see me, Kevin James, and then also over at itreboot.net. We're on there. My contact info. I have a little form. You could find me. I'm here in West Michigan. So yeah, give me a holler if you need anything.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming out again, talking with us on goal setting for 2021. And as Jeff has probably already mentioned, open invitation anytime you want to come on.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. All right. I do want to answer, let's see. Let's go into, we have from Zen Master, not wanting to sidetrack with this question, but curious, when you get a new call, do you right away just start taking notes and documenting, or you just tend to sit and listen? I'm assuming you're talking about getting a call from a prospective customer. Yeah, I don't talk to people on the phone anymore. And I know a lot of people are going to rail against that and say, oh, you got to talk to people. You got to talk to people. I actually, my voicemail, which it automatically goes to, I think it rings my phone one time. I think it beeps. I don't even have a regular ring on it, just to let me know that somebody called. I think Paco's over there going, oh my God, would you stop it? But I think what I do is I put a voicemail in there that basically says, hey, I will get back to you as soon as I can. But if you want to get some information or whatever from me more quickly, then email me at, and I will spell out my email address, and people can send me an email. And the people that want to go above and beyond and send an email will. And here's what tends to happen. This is why I do this, because those tend to be better customers. A lot of times you get people on the phone, you will get a lot of tire kickers and a lot of time wasters. So, hey, if you guys want to answer the phone and that's the way you do your business, by all means, have at it. I got tired of beating my head against the wall, so I decided to change. And so now I do it email only. Now, if somebody is very, let me put it this way. You can also parse this information by understanding when somebody asks a question. If somebody is very, I don't want to say eloquent, but they put the question out there to a point where you go, yes, this person actually needs help. You learn to parse these situations where you learn who's a tire kicker and who's not. So that's why a lot of times, even on the voicemails, I'll read them. They go right to transcripts most of the time on, through my service. And so I'll read them, and then I will just, a lot of times I'll go, yeah, it's just not the right fit for me. Because I'm looking for people. There are always people that are willing to spend money, and those are the people I'm looking for. I'd love to save the world, but that doesn't pay the bills, and I've got to justify the amount of time that I spend away from my family and other things because of working on my business or in my business.
I would take it as a different approach. I think that you really, so as far as the question goes, I would listen to start taking notes and understanding what the problem is, and then seeing if this is a good fit. I believe that being on the phone will allow you to understand, like, we're all pretty good judge of characters, I think, innately, and we should be able to understand, is this client a good fit for us or not? And I think a conversation is usually how you can achieve that. A voicemail, you could probably do the same. But we're in such a digital world right now that things may be misunderstood of being ignored if you decide not to service them as a client. And perfect case in point, we had a client, a walk-in prospect, to get her laptop repaired. Well, the front desk emailed me and said, hey, we have a walk-in, but I know you guys don't do computer repair anymore. So I explained to the front desk guy, yep, let her know that we no longer do computer repair. Here's a referral to one that's down the street, 10 minutes away. Well, apparently she was upset about that we were, quote unquote, turning business away during a pandemic, that she wrote a 1-star review and said, we tried to get help. I understand there's no walk-ins, but, I can call to make an appointment. So the communication was lost there. Now, could she have asked more questions? Probably. Could my front desk have explained things a little bit better? Yes, as well. But that's essentially the whole point of, like, the quote unquote voicemail system, where if I would have spoke to her, it probably would have been a different result, because she understood in the way that I was trying to communicate that. But being lazy, kind of just going through the email portion and letting my front desk guy take care of it, resulted into that review, which honestly, all of our low reviews, which we don't have many anymore because either we've closed those other locations because we consolidated, or it's been so long that I guess Google took them off, is they're all people that have not been our clients. That's the fun part about it, is all our bad reviews have been all those that either misunderstood or just didn't like how we were doing business without being an actual customer. So what do? You reply to the review, and I said, hey, look, sorry, as of July 2019, we don't do this. It wasn't in an effort to brush you off. It was more of hoping you had another alternative, so we just didn't set you out with nothing. So will that person call? Probably not. But at least now everyone in the world can look at that and see from there. Now, I'm a big proponent of having an answering service or having a live person talk to someone, because I feel that a person talking to someone taking a message is going to be 9 times better than them leaving a voicemail. And then if you spell out for the email, I just feel like the least resistance will allow for a better result. Yes, you may get tire kickers, but that's essentially depending on what you're trying to provide as an IT service or a managed service provider or computer repair. It's the nature of the business, right? It's what are your tolerable points? What do you want to do? And there's other alternatives for this too, live chats on the website and things like that. So that's what I would say on that piece. I personally think answering the phone, taking phone calls, things like that benefit in the long term, just as far as brand and image. But that's my opinion. Plus, I'm in a different area as well, right? Like I think Jeff is out in Canton, which I believe is more of a rural location, or is it?
No, it's a city. I mean, there's 96,000 people in a 6x6 square mile radius, so it's pretty compacted.
So he has got a more compact, more probably tight knit city community, whereas me, I'm in downtown Chicago, which you can throw a stone and hit 5 other MSP and IT support shops. So, and then again, people might have a bad day that day and want to take it out, and there are those that misunderstand, and you have those problems too. So that's kind of where I'd say a phone call usually will help alleviate some of those things.
And Zen Master also has said, let me see, always reach out. Always reach out to say no. Sorry for my typos on phone. So from that aspect, yes, I generally, if they send an email, I will always reach back out. And a lot of times I will reach out to let them know that they can probably do it themselves and they don't need to pay me any money. Because at the end of the day, I just had an email conversation with somebody who was building a custom computer and they had their power supply blow up. So I gave a little bit of free advice. I said, you can do this. And I said, sounds like you're already, in the midst of it, but they still want me to, they're going to get a power supply in. They want to bring me all the parts and pay me actually pretty decent money to actually finish putting this thing together, wiring it and all that kind of stuff. So it depends on the conversation. And a lot of times if somebody is if you can tell from an email, I think, and we're going to talk about the phone in a minute, but if you can tell from an email, somebody's just kind of, kicking tires or whatever, I will still always try to be helpful and be nice and give them good advice, whatever that may be. And then it's also a document that, hey, here's the conversation. So going back to what Paco said, if anybody were ever write a bad review because of that, I can go grab that email. I can put the email on there and go, well, this is the conversation we had. I don't know what else I could have done. And, end of story. And so most people can see that. Now, as far as phone, yes, if I feel the person is a legitimate customer, and again, your definition of legitimate customer is your definition. It's not the same across the board. As Paco said, and Paco made a very, very good point, being in different areas, downtown Chicago versus more of a cityscape, smaller cityscape, way smaller than what Chicago houses and holds. So you've got to parse some of this information and figure out what's going to work in the area you're in. I have a lot of people in this area, so I can be a little more picky choosy when it comes to that. But yeah, and there are several IT companies here, but not a ton, not like Chicago. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, I think the fact of for us, no matter what it is, if it's a phone call, if it's a email, normally we'll get back to them, and whether we can help them or not. Right. And then especially I think Kyle even mentioned it in his where, he's a bit in the mix of it, but he does not return calls when the laptop is broken. Hey, how much is it fixed? Right. And those are usually the penny pinchers, the tire kickers, just trying to figure it out. And I've been a part of that as well. And I think for me, I usually try to give them some type of advice or whatever the case may be. And the reason why is for two reasons. One, my nature. I just want to make sure that everyone is helped out as best as possible. So in this case, since we don't do computer repair, hey, there's another place down the street. Now, while we were doing it, I have a canned response in when was Repair Shopper when I was using it, and it would just reply depending on the type of issue that we would have. And usually you have a common set of issues that normally happen where it's like DC jack, a hard drive replacement, whatever the case may be. I'll email that out and go from there. Now, if they reply back saying, why is it so much? I'll give you $100 for it. Then the conversation stops, right? Because then now they're just negotiating. That's my rates. Not going to happen. And some people are like that. They'll negotiate the rates and go from there. The other piece of it is not in my current state where, someone calls for hard drive failure or the screen replacement or things like that. I'll refer them over to the next place. And they're usually 9 times out of 10, they're thankful for that information. But now I've created a referral source in case they happen to run into someone. They can go ahead and refer over to me. And then two, it's good to have someone that you have a partnership with. And this is something for, setting goals for 2021 is if there are jobs you don't like to do, find someone that does, get a nice little partnership that goes, make a little bit of money on top, and then just go from there, and then that way you can either charge and pay the guy out or they can pay and give you a referral, however you work it out. But like in my case, my buddy that I mentioned that I used to help out way back when, he does a lot of break fix and residential clients. So I'm actually transitioning all my residential clients to him, and any inbound break fix stuff that comes in goes to him. And we have an agreement where if he closes a client, he'll give me an hour of labor free of charge to help out if I can send him to take care of something that I'm out of pocket for. So that's our agreement. You could do something like that. You can make it monetary. You can kind of go from there. But those are the things you want to think about. And especially like, for example, my big thing, and everyone knows, is I don't run cable after September of 2018. Will not touch the damn thing anymore. But I have a company that will do it for me. And we've built out a relationship where we charge on top of what they're doing. And we've kind of adopted it as our own service, although we let the client know transparently that, hey, this is another company that we subcontract to take care of it, right? So those are all things that you want to say is one, referral sources. Two, you get a good vibe for the client that may run into someone and they may refer you out, and we've had that quite a few times too.
That's really good. I like that, where you're going to use subcontractors to do certain things. And a lot of times, because after that, almost lacerating your wrists from that cabling accident, I think that was a shot in the dark there that said, hey, yeah, I'm done with that. And you know what? That's fine, because here's the thing, Paco. It's not that you can't do cabling, but the people that do it all the time are probably better than you and me at doing cabling. I'm guessing.
100%.
And if you can mark it up a little bit and have that relationship, this is where you got to think, because at the end of the day, we're all fixers too. And that's the problem. We want to fix everything, and we know we can fix everything. We can work on our websites. We can take care of customers. We can set up networks. We can, run servers. We can do all this stuff. And at the end of the day, you got to figure out what it is you're good at and divide the rest. Get the rest to somebody else, whether it's subcontracting, employees, et cetera, et cetera. So just think about how you want to do business. And I think that's the wonderful thing about this business is you can do it in many different ways. And if somebody's going to tell you that this is the only way to do that, I'm just going to say, walk away, because there's not only one way to do something. There's at least 10, if not more. And you just got to find what's going to fit for you, your personality, your business, and how much time and effort you want to put into it.
Yep. Absolutely. Can't agree more.
Let's see. What a ProTech guy. Oh yeah. You said, you mentioned this. A bit of a mix on this is from ProTech Kyle over there. I do not return missed calls. My laptop is broken. How much is it to fix or the like? Not the client we're looking for. That's pretty good advice. I've been using that advice for years. You're a smart dude, man. No, that's good. That is the way to, and that's what I mean. You got to be able to parse the information and understand if somebody's asking you for price. In other words, they're just kicking the tires. they're not your client. Again, I'm looking for the client that says, I have a problem. Can you fix it? Why, yes, I can, and I will. And those are the clients that are good. And what's funny is a lot of times I still probably undercharge just a bit because I get tips all the time, and pretty significant tips. So it's just a way. When you start getting a lot of tips, I think you need to look at your pricing structure and go, yeah, probably I need a different, little different clientele, and I need to charge a little bit more. So always be adjusting those things, and don't be afraid. We've said this before, Paco, you and I have talked about this for years and years and years. You will charge more money. You will lose clients. You will make more money at the end of the year. I guarantee you. I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works that way. I'm just telling you. And you'll be able to take better care of the customers that you do have that are important to you. And therefore, they're going to tend to spend more money with you. That's really what you want. You want the relationships. If you don't have the relationships, what do you got? What's the point?
Yep. Can't say any more than that.
All right, Paco, I think we're a little bit over an hour, so I think we did fill our time very well, and it was great having Kevin on here. And sorry I couldn't get it in the beginning there, but glad you were able to take over and run the show. You're doing an awesome job. So hey, finish it up, man. Take us out of here.
Sure. All right. So we will go ahead and basically let you guys know where they can find us, and come join us every Friday at noon Eastern. Watch live and hang out in the chat room over on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Subscribe and hit the notification button so you never miss an episode. Or I should say, is use your favorite podcasting app to take us wherever you go. We're on all Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. You can even talk to your Echo and tell them you want to listen to good old us to get that mood going for the holiday season. As always, thank you for listening. We will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.
Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you all next week.